Live from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to the Double D Podcast, breaking down the news of the week and whatever else is on our mind with a little bit of wrestling mixed in for taste, sort of like cinnamon. So grab some Doritos and a Diet Coke, then sit back and relax because it's time for the Double D with your host and self-proclaimed pop culture experts, Dameon Nelson and David Hero.
All right, David, welcome here to the Double D Podcast here on Thursday, July the 28th.
Double D? Is that? No, that's
Dameon and Dave.
Yeah.
The Double D.
Yes.
So it looks like two Ds and a podcast, Double D Podcast.
I'm ready.
Get it? See
I'm
what
ready.
happened? Absent last week, back this week, an active couple of weeks in the world. So let's kick it off with this week's hot topic and talk a little about what's going on in this world of ours. Last week, it was the Republican National Convention in Cleveland,
RNC.
Ohio. The Grand Ole Party, if you will.
Yes.
And then in this week, and concluding tonight, is the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia, where they got that bell,
No. It's Philadelphia. If you ask the item
Do you know
sheet.
Philadelphia is officially Milwaukee's sister city?
No.
And it's written down somewhere.
Why?
Every city has a sister.
Who's our
You
brother?
don't know that?
No.
We don't have brother cities.
Would St. Louis be our brother city?
Why?
It's very similar to Milwaukee.
How is it? We don't have an arch.
We do.
We don't have a big
We got
river?
the Hone Bridge. That's a big arch.
That pales in comparison. So let's go back to the RNC last week. We heard from just about every member of Donald Trump's family. We heard from Ted Cruz. We heard from Donald Trump himself at a 76-minute speech on Thursday. Rudy Giuliani as well. But what was your takeaway from the Republican National Convention last week? The RNC, yo.
It was kind of empty to me.
Empty as far as what?
Because every night there was criticism for something. You know, it was criticism about music that was used. It was criticism about plagiarism of speeches. It was criticism about just about everything about Donald Trump and the RNC. What was negative?
Well,
I didn't.
The words coming out of everybody's mouth at the RNC were negative.
It was a lot of bad. I didn't have that happy, good feel about anything with the RNC.
They're not necessarily portraying a happy, good feel message.
No, they're not. And
well, let's go back to the purpose of these conventions.
And let's be honest. And I've said this before. If you had to put a gun to my head and I had to pick,
well, RNC would let you.
Trump or Clinton, you might have to shoot me because I don't think I could make a decision right now.
So a lot of people are saying, and Trump himself coming out of the convention last week because he got the convention bounce, if you will, which was actually only 1 point after the polls settled down, which is within the margin of error, so he really gained nothing out of it. But, the Democrats this week are delivering millions more viewers per night for their convention. Does that say anything as far as what might happen in the general election?
I think because of the scandal, the Wasserman scandal, that people have more eyes on the convention.
Okay.
I think they wanted to see what Bernie was going to do. They had far more A-list celebrities, so you wanted to.
You mean Scott Baio couldn't draw for?
No,
Republicans?
Not compared to Demi Lovato, but I mean, you wanted to see how Hillary Clinton was going to react to the scandal.
That's absolutely not.
I think so because
you think
when it
30
shows,
million people are tuning in to see how she reacts to a scandal when she's not even speaking until Thursday.
When it shows that your party's chairman was against everybody else to make sure she wins, she then steps down only to be embraced by Hillary Clinton and say, "Hey, come on my team."
Just like Priebus and the party of the Republicans were behind Marco Rubio. It just didn't work for them.
No, it didn't.
Same exact thing happened, and it has happened in every election. There's the candidate the party wants. There's the candidate the people elect. Generally, those align pretty comfortably.
Right, but it didn't work this time.
For the Republicans, it didn't.
Right.
It worked for the Democrats, yes.
Yes, but it's not about. We're not talking about Rubio because he's an afterthought.
No, you just said that.
Why are you getting so defensive?
No, I'm not getting defensive. I'm simply going back to what you said, which was the scandal of trying to elect Clinton versus Sanders.
Right.
My point was it's no different, and it's only a scandal because people know about it. It's no different than what the Republicans did.
That's exactly it. Because people know it made major news. Mm-hmm. It's just I was curious to see what Bernie was going to say. I was curious to see how his delegates were going to act.
Yeah.
You know, it's as much of a mess.
You're being ridiculous. Sarah Silverman, which is fantastic.
And then, of course, her Twitter account got hacked the next day.
Oh, convenient.
Right? it's interesting how much of a mess the RNC was. It came across as rather smooth. The DNC, which you thought was going to be easier, had a little hiccups, but it's still going pretty steady. The people that are tuning in for the drama, there's no drama there. Right?
Yeah.
Especially after last night with President Obama's.
Well, I give all the credit in the world for there being no drama at the DNC to Bernie Sanders, who had two great moments. Firstly, his speech. Secondly, his decision to nominate Hillary Clinton by acclamation after Vermont voted, which was a symbolic thing, and him turning and handing over that torch to Hillary Clinton and telling his supporters, without saying
Let's be honest, though.
telling his supporters without saying it that I'm out, she's in.
Bernie was looking at his phone. He saw that the deposit was made to his bank account, and then he decided to endorse her.
That's an assumption. There's no fact behind that at all.
Come on, man.
They don't need to pay him off. You pay off in politics with positions, not money.
That's what I mean. When he realized he's going to get a good spot.
Which again, it's what every party has done and every race
I know.
has done.
I'm not saying that it's
time.
wrong. I'm just saying
You're alleging that this is something that only the Democrats do.
No, they all do it. Every party does.
Too bad Trump won't have a cabinet to pick. Here's the thing. On the Republican National... The purpose of these conventions, as I was saying earlier, the purpose of these conventions are to solidify the candidate, bring the party together, and to show the platform, because they also select their platforms for the party for that election cycle. And the Republicans last week, I watched every night of it. I watched Trump's speech in its entirety. I watched his WrestleMania entrance on night 1 or 2 or whatever it was, or his Hunger Games entrance. And when he comes out and says repeatedly, we're going to win big, we're going to win big, we're going to win, we're going to win, we're going to make this great, we're going to stop this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that.
He has to convince himself of that.
I think he's convinced himself of it handedly. But I think that he has to convince the voting population out there that there's some substance to his words, yet there was little to no policy discussion at all at the RNC, whereas the DNC has been essentially all about policy,
I agree.
Which is a huge difference.
It's a completely
Whether
different
you
animal.
agree or disagree with whatever policies the Republicans and Donald Trump have, we still to this moment don't know what they are.
We don't know what he stands for. Well, we know he wants to build a wall.
That I guess you can call that a policy, sure.
But that's really all we really know about what he wants to do. He says he's going to fix everything.
$30 trillion is how much his perceived tax plan would increase the national debt over the course of his election, or course of his first term. Hillary's is about $12 trillion, I believe it is. So both are going to increase it, but his is substantially higher.
It's scary, isn't it? I mean, it is really scary when you think about what could happen.
Who was the best speech of the RNC last week? Who gave the best speech Monday through Thursday of the Republican National Convention? Was it Michelle Obama? Was it Trump's wife? Was it Michaela? What's her name?
Michelle Obama was not at the RNC.
But I thought I heard her speech at the RNC.
Wow. Okay, you know what? That was a mess. But I felt bad for her.
Here's why it was a mess, though. Because President Obama, back in, I believe, 2008, was challenged on a speech he gave. Mm-hmm. And at the first challenge, he said, oh, yeah, I borrowed parts of it from whoever. That's what they didn't do, the Trump party didn't, or the Trump campaign didn't do, is say, yes, we borrowed pieces of the speech from Michelle Obama.
Why would you borrow anyone's speech?
As Obama said when he was called out on it, and as they could have said, was, I find this person to be inspirational, I find them to be a role model, and I model myself after them. All of that makes sense. I think that's acceptable to generally anybody to say, okay, people use fourscore 7 years ago, whatever it is, they use read my lips, they use pieces of speeches all the time. And sometimes it's very obvious, other times it's not.
We say that all the time.
But they spent a week denying that they had plagiarized any part of Michelle Obama's speech. And then the news networks, all but one, played them side by side, and there was no disputing it at that point. There's coincidence, but then there's not coincidence, and that was not coincidence.
I felt bad for
Melina.
Don't call her melanoma.
Perez?
I feel bad for her. Because, she's put in a spot. She's like, here, read the speech.
But at one point she said she wrote it. Then the speechwriter popped up, said she wrote it, tried to resign.
She never once listened to Michelle Obama's speech.
That's probably true.
So how would she know?
Yeah.
And here's the other thing.
That was back when Trump was a Democrat, though. So.
It's not like Melania Trump needs the money or the fame or the fortune. She's a standalone woman.
She just needs to keep herself in the will.
I'm sure that there's a...
For the $10 billion that he's not worth.
Well, hey... When you have the monopoly man, what's the difference?
This guy says this week 2 things. Firstly, he invites Russia to commit espionage against this country.
Oh,
Secondly, and stands behind it after Newt Gingrich tried to clean it up and say it was a joke. Secondly, he publicly states now that he is not going to be releasing his tax returns. Now, I truly don't care, but every candidate, as far as I know in the history of time, has released their tax returns. So the question then is, well, why not, Donald? And he claims it's because he's being audited, and that doesn't, it won't help his case for audit if he releases his tax returns. Some are speculating there's a lot of stuff in there, and I don't know how, because I've never had as complicated taxes as his probably are. There's a lot of stuff in there that he would have to do some splaining of. But quite frankly, if you look back at everything Donald Trump has gotten away with so far, I'm not sure whatever's in his taxes is something that's going to change the minds of the people who are already on his side.
What's interesting is how come there's been no personal scandal that's come out?
For Trump, there's been a couple whispers.
But nothing, I mean...
National Enquirer kind of stuff, which he
big.
likes to cite about Hillary Clinton and Ted Cruz.
But nothing...
because his dad was
But
related
nothing
to
big.
Oswald.
Like, there's been no woman that come out and says that, he sexually harassed her.
Well, there is the term in these elections called the October surprise or the September surprise or whatever it is, and people sit on things and wait closer to the election when it's going to matter more and release stuff. I'm not saying there's anything out there. I don't know nothing.
What do you know?
Oh, I know. I don't know anything about Trump. Nobody knows anything about Trump, to be honest with you. But if there is something, I would venture to say that you'll start seeing some 1, 2, 3 punches coming out.
Do you know what bothers me about some of this
closer
stuff?
to the election day?
Is all these music talents that are now offended when someone uses their music.
They long have been, actually.
I know.
Usually if they don't support the candidate. It is broader this year because the disapproval rating for both is at 53%. But you have to get licenses and rights to use all that stuff. It's not public domain. So somebody should be asking somebody, or they should be suing if they don't agree with the usage of their music.
I don't know if...
But once it's done, too.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. You can't. Once it's done,
I'm sure that Signed, Sealed, Delivered was approved to be used after the president left the stage on Wednesday.
Who would say no to President Obama?
Every Republican in the last 8 years has worked against him.
Look what happened to that DNC staffer.
What DNC staffer?
The one that got shot.
Got shot? I'm not aware of this.
Oh, we've talked about it, haven't we?
Well, the audience isn't aware of it.
So, possibly the whistleblower, could be the
allegedly,
whistleblower.
Possibly, speculated.
Was shot because he was robbed in the back, but...
Shot in the back while being robbed, and they took nothing.
They took nothing.
Mm-hmm. I think Jake did it. From Scandal.
Oh, I'm like, Jake the Snake. He does a lot of things, but he's not going to shoot somebody.
I've been watching Resurrection of Jake the Snake, by the way. It's a fascinating documentary.
You enjoyed
on
it?
I haven't finished it yet.
DDP is the star of that show. DDP is the man. I am proud of everything he's done. And they made a hell of a video.
Yeah. But back to the DNC staffer and what you're saying about that.
It's just amazing how some of these people just wind up dead or disappear.
Well, here's the thing. The story reads that, yes, he was robbed walking home. He was on the phone with his girlfriend. She heard the whole thing happen. And he was, quote-unquote, robbed. They took nothing, though. Shot him in the back as he was trying to run away. He fought because he's got bruises all over his body. So there was a scuffle that ensued. But those are the facts, along with him being a staffer of the Democratic National Committee. The allegations or the assumptions are that perhaps he was snuffed out because he knew something about this leak of emails or whatever else it may be. None of that is fact. That's all speculation. Mm-hmm. But it is coming at a pretty convenient time.
Yes. It's just dirty.
Hey, you know what?
Dirty
I just
politics.
referred to Jake Ballard from Scandal. Scandal
Yes.
was one of my absolutely favorite TV shows in the world, presented by Shonda Rhimes. Not the last season, as erroneously reported on GMA, unless Kerry keeps getting pregnant. Kerry Washington.
Yeah, what's up with that?
But I watch that show, and I watch it, and I think, and the stuff that happens on it, I say, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if that truly is an accurate depiction of what happens in our nation's capital.
Oh, my God.
And I'm fine with it. Sometimes you just got to fix the problem.
Look at President Kennedy.
Yeah.
If they're willing to snuff out the president...
Well, come on now.
amigo, please. Really? You don't think that was not an
The
inside
facts
job?
show, and the Warren Commission report shows that Lee Harvey Oswald singularly shot
with a magic
John
bullet.
F. Kennedy with the help of Ted Cruz's dad.
With a magic bullet.
I've never been shot. I've seen forensic evidence. I've
Whoa,
seen
you've
shows.
never been shot?
I've never been shot. Never been shot at. I've shot guns, and it is not beyond the realm of reason that the way it happened could have been the way it happened.
You're killing me.
No, somebody killed him, and it was Lee Harvey Oswald.
Speaking of that, how about the Joker that shot President Reagan?
John Wilkes Booth.
Yeah.
He has been released after 35 years in
Convenient
jail,
timing,
I believe it
isn't
is.
it?
How so?
Oh, there's another election coming up.
Who was the woman he was after, though? Because he did it for a woman, an actress. He wrote a letter to her. He was
Demi
infatuated with her. No, it was not. And that was his reasoning.
Farrah
He wanted
Fawcett.
To, it was not. It was
No?
not.
Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster. Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Andrew helped me
Is she
out.
still alive?
Yeah.
I think so. Anyways, I'm not sure. I think he's got some mental issues now, right? Because he was in a mental
No,
facility.
he's
He wasn't
out.
in jail.
He's out living amongst the public. He's been released back into the wild. He's gonna kill. He's gonna kill again. You can't rehab somebody. Put him in an
I'm not
institution.
saying this, but
You
I'm
can't-
referring to
you know,
this.
listen, he's locked up in a mental institution. I'm sure they put eye drops in him and stuff and tested on him and did magic
drops?
mind trips and everything else. And now they're releasing him to the wild. You can't do that.
You make it sound like they just said, go home.
Yeah.
Thanks for your last 30. They didn't do that. He's still under supervision. He's still being watched. He still has to report in. Not that all that's going to fix it, but it wasn't just released out into
Who's
the
gonna hire him?
public. Oh, I will probably pay for him to live the rest of
He
his
is
life.
not
as we
coming
paid
to work
for the
with
last
us.
35 years. I am not saying this, but I am repeating this, and you can never find it, and we'll never hear it again on WWE programming, but it did happen. I believe it was Fully Loaded 99. Jerry Lawler said, somebody was talking about Bill Clinton.
Yes, I remember.
And Jerry
this.
Lawler said, "Where's Lee Harvey Oswald when you need him?" And my jaw hit the floor. I'm like, "Oh shoot, you can't say that." And he didn't say that because it's been scrubbed from every piece of history that shows that he ever said it.
What did you
But
think about Bill Clinton's speech? Speaking of him,
Bill Clinton's speech?
Yeah.
I did see it and actually just remembered that I saw it. Beyond the opening, where all I could think of was, you got caught once and probably cheated 30 times. You probably shouldn't be starting this speech with how great a love Hillary Clinton is to you and how great your relationship is.
here's where I know he's lying. He says the first time he saw Hillary, she had blonde frizzy hair,
I don't think he said frizzy. He
Coke
said blonde
bottle
hair,
glasses.
no makeup, with glasses, big glasses.
and no
He didn't say
makeup.
Coke bottle. Yes.
Right there, I know he's freaking lying. Because I can only imagine her without all that makeup and with
It
the
was
big blonde
1971.
hair.
It was a whole different time.
But look at Bill Clinton is like that guy. He's not going to go after a Muppet. He's not. And to say how much he loved her and asked her to marry 3 times, yet to cheat on her with multiple women?
Maybe he just wanted a cheeseburger. What do you mean multiple? Proven one. Proven one. He had
So
proven one.
all the others are.
I just
are
said he
making
got
stuff
caught
up?
once, probably did it 30 times. But he got caught once, and it was proven
I didn't
once.
say 30. I'm guessing like at least 17.
Monica was much older than that. So what? He got a blowjob in the Oval Office. I've said it before in this program. I think that any president and any man in this world would love to be able to say they've done that.
Well, he did it with
He
a cigar.
did do that. And
So filthy.
it's not just like he didn't inhale, he didn't penetrate.
You don't think
Personally.
So? Uh-huh.
Well, with
He was taking. Oh, they're playing doctor. He's taking temperatures.
I thought Bill Clinton's speech overall was he stood there realizing, again, the opening was bizarre, but he stood there showing and saying but not saying, much like what President Obama says just about every time without saying it, I am or I was the president, bitch.
What is his role going to be?
Bill Clinton, he's going to be the, what do they call him? Not the first man, but the I can't remember the name.
What is he going to do during the day?
Well, keep in mind,
You know
though,
what I
when
mean?
he was president, he gave Hillary a very active role in the administration. She was the first one to tackle health care, and that was a failed effort. But she had a
What is
very,
she going
very
to have him
active
do?
role.
He's not going. He won't get any interns.
We can get some of some of the
Young
Republican
Asian boy
interns. Did you see that selfie that was going out that everybody made a big deal out of?
Yeah, all the white people.
Well, it wasn't that it was all the white people. It was that there were no other than white people.
No, it's all white people. What's the big deal? Who? Maybe nobody else wants to be an intern in their, with.
There are a
Paul
lot of
Ryan.
African American and minority Republicans.
Well, maybe they couldn't make it that day.
Oh, they had their meetings? Because clearly something's wrong with them.
I'm not saying if you want to spin it that they're in special meetings or protests, that's fine. That's not what I was insinuating.
Moving back to, I don't think you ever answered the question, the standout moment of the Republican National Convention for you last week.
I thought it was Ivanka Trump.
Okay. She gave a great speech.
I thought
she got a lot of credit for, but it was clouded by the plagiarism allegations and the fact that the Trump campaign would not admit.
She's a strong,
that it was
independent
plagiarized.
woman. You know, she's stoic. I thought that,
She's a sales lady, right? I mean, she had to sell herself to Donald.
that's her kid.
Oh, I thought he bought her on the internet. His wife.
Yes.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. Which one? He's had
His
3.
current one.
Okay. See, that right there is what...
He's got babies' mamas, right?
That's what makes me nervous. He's been married 3 times, which means he has commitment issues.
No, it just didn't work. Maybe she had commitment issues. You've seen Donald Trump in public. Imagine him in private. I can't imagine anyone wanting to spend the rest of their life with him.
Can you imagine just cozying up to him?
Absolutely not.
He's the big spoon, you're the little spoon.
That is a vile thought. Ugh.
I don't know, I'm just saying.
So you thought she was a standout?
I thought she was, yeah.
Anything that happened
Mayor
over the course of the 4
Giuliani
days?
was right after that. I thought he was awesome.
Did anything that happened over the course of those 4 days last week in Cleveland skew your opinion more so towards or away from the candidate on the Republican side? Not saying who you're going to vote for, but favorable or unfavorable
I didn't
of
like
him coming
Donald
out of
Trump's speech. It was full of fear-mongering.
That works on the weak.
Yeah, well, I'm a Jedi.
No, I mean it works on those who, what is it called, the low informed or the low.
The uneducated.
There's a technical term for it, but yes, that's exactly what it is. And as I said before, the uneducated are not people who have not gone to school. There's people who just barely sailed through. They're the ones who won't go and they'll look at the 30-second commercial from either side and believe all those words to be true. They'll look at they'll watch their particular news channel, Fox News, which viewership is 92% white on Fox News. In some recent data that was released, which I found interesting, and they will watch their particular news network, Fox News, MSNBC. Those are the two left and right ones, and they will believe everything they hear from that, or formulate opinions based on assumptions of the things that they hear from those, without doing their own research. There's so many great websites and so many great ways by which you can do your own research and get the facts about these things. And if you do that, yet still decide to vote for a candidate of your choosing, then you're completely within the right to do that. But if you believe the propaganda that is put out there and then formulate your decision based off of that, that makes you one of those uneducated voters.
You realize that they passed a bill allowing the U.S. government to use propaganda
What do you mean?
for fear and war.
Back in
There was
the
a bill
20s?
passed, like about 4 weeks ago.
Propaganda such as what? When I say propaganda, I'm talking about one-sided
Fear-mongering,
approaches.
war,
But we have the First Amendment, which entitles anybody to say whatever they want. So how did they pass a law allowing propaganda?
I'll look it up later and I'll show
Please
it to
do,
you.
yeah. Because propaganda has not ever been outlawed and it's been used forever. So in the Democratic National Convention, which as of the taping of this podcast is not yet complete, we have not yet heard from Hillary Clinton, but we have heard from Tim Kaine, her running mate. We have also heard from the President Obama. We've also heard from Bill
Michelle
Clinton.
Obama.
We've heard from Michelle. We've heard from Bernie Sanders. We've heard from a wide list of people, including celebrities, and more importantly, in one of the most telling speeches of either convention, that of Michael Bloomberg just last night as well.
Yeah, I was.
Who doesn't have a dog in this race?
No, and he's not a big fan of the Clintons.
No.
But he hates Donald Trump that much.
Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. Unlike a Ted Cruz, who they thought would say something different, Bloomberg was given the stage in light of the fact that he is not, and he said clearly, not a Democrat, not a Republican, was thinking of running against Hillary Clinton as a third-party candidate, or Clinton and Trump as a third-party candidate, but didn't realize that that would help Trump win, so chose not to. I think that tells you something about the convention of this week versus the convention of last week.
It also tells you that Trump must have screwed Bloomberg in some real estate deal.
Possibly.
Well,
Bloomberg, much richer, verified, much richer than Donald Trump ever has been.
But for me, what stole the show so far, besides Bernie Sanders and how great he was, being gracious, was the speech of President Obama.
You know, there has not been, I said this on some social media platforms, I was watching the Democratic National Convention in 2004, and it was just on. It was on TV, and I think I dozed off. And all of a sudden, I wake up to all this cheering and some guy talking who I'd never seen before. And that was we're not a white America, we're not a black America, we're United States of America, we're not a red America, we're not a blue America, we're United States of America. And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Where did he come from? Who is he? He could be president one day. Now, I'm not saying I was predicting 4 years later, but going from that moment, that speech, to being, I was lucky enough to be in Grant Park on the night he was elected president in 2008, and seeing his speech that same year at the convention in 2008 in Denver, in front of 80,000 people, when he said enough as one of the climactic moments of that speech, to last night in his speech at the Democratic National Convention. People say he's a great presenter. He is a great presenter, he is a great speaker, but what I took more from his speech last night was he believed everything he was saying, much like I thought in 2008, much like I thought in 2004. Now, doesn't mean he did everything he said he was going to, but he believes and believed in everything he said. That's where the passion comes from, as opposed to some of these manufactured political speeches that we hear from everybody else.
No, he was absolutely fantastic. I mean, his cadence, the way he would pause.
Had a bit of an arrogance to him, too, which was great, because he's the president.
And he reminds me of some of the Rock's promos, the way he carries himself.
Yeah.
But when you're a two-term president and you do what you want to do, I mean, he's owned it, you know? And for me, if I, first time watching, and I have to decide on speeches who I'm going to vote for, after his speech, I would vote for Hillary Clinton.
It was well orchestrated, it was well delivered, and he was very humble in his speech as well. He said on 2 occasions things somewhat against himself. He said, she's made mistakes, reference Hillary Clinton, just like I have, just like we all have. Said that there is one person who is more qualified than both he was and Bill Clinton was to be president, and it's Hillary Clinton. And more importantly, and he's the only man who can say this because no former president appeared at the Republican convention, he's the only one that can vouch for Hillary Clinton in this way, by saying, I've been in that office,
yes.
I've been in the room, she's been in the room, and you can't replicate or you can't fake that experience. And that's just something that I think a lot of people can't understand or comprehend, is that it certainly can't be easy to be the president of the United States and be the final decision maker in this country. But to have been in the room when those decisions were made, whether it be as First Lady, Secretary of State, whatever it was she was, puts you in a better position, whether you're going to do it the way people want you to or not, puts you in a better position to be able to do the job. And that's the biggest argument of this election. When you look at the 2 candidates, there's one person who can do it and one person who hasn't told us any reason to believe they're even willing to learn how to do it. That's the challenge. And I don't like either of them.
And what's scary is, like you said, not one former president spoke at the RNC.
None. They stayed as far away as they possibly could.
Extremely.
And they don't have many choices. They only have the Bushes, right? Yeah, because Nixon was the last one before that, and Reagan, and they're dead. So.
But still.
Yeah, but Jimmy Carter, I thought we'd see Carter at the DNC. He might be ailing.
You know, but there's no vice presidents that showed up. There's nobody.
That is true.
You know what I mean?
Nobody who's held a high level of office spoke at that convention, whereas it was multiple people per day at the DNC this week. All right, so coming out of the DNC, coming out of that speech last night from the President of the United States, POTUS, if you will, your opinion of Hillary Clinton, more favorable or less favorable or about the same?
It's about the same. I mean, anyone can say nice things about somebody.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
They did about Trump last week.
Right, and I feel the same about him too. That's why at the end of the day, I'm still going to write your name in.
I will say this. Coming out of the conventions of the last 2 weeks, I have decided that I can vote for one of the 2 candidates in this race, and that is a good thing, at least for my standpoint.
Because I still can't.
Well, I think I know the consequences of one versus the consequences of the other, and I'd rather have the consequences of one versus the other. And coming out of these conventions, I now feel more comfortable voting for one over the other. And I think that we're going to see the same happen in this country when realism sets in and the hype is gone. The debates are going to be amazing.
Oh, that's going to be record
The debates
ratings.
are going to be amazing. They're going to be great. He's going to win big. He's going to do tremendous. He's going to win big. We're going to do great. But I can't wait for somebody to actually challenge the Republican candidate for specifics and a policy. I don't think he has the capability mentally to communicate it. I really don't.
Well, maybe he'll bring some pencils and draw it out.
But he also doesn't think he has to. That's been a lot of strife within the Trump campaign over the Republican National Committee telling him what he needs to be communicating, and him saying, why should I? This worked for me. I won the primaries. It's 14 million people of the Republican.
He did win the primaries.
14 million Republicans voted for him in the primaries. He needs 60, 70 million votes from everybody to win the election. I don't think he's comprehending that point. He can get those same. Let's say he doubles it and gets 38 million or 28 million. Let's say he triples it. Yeah. He's still not there. And that was just of Republicans. Independents are swaying. I think Hillary Clinton she's got 19% of independents or something like that, whereas when Obama won, he had 8% of independents or something along those lines. So she's got some work to do. Both of them have some work to do to get that independent group. But it's going to be very telling over the next few months, and I'm not going to pay as close attention. Actually, I could stop paying close attention until the conventions of what's going on, because I believe that this country is smart enough not to create their own Brexit.
Oh, God, I hope so.
That's what I'd like to believe. So, with that, anything else on the conventions or the world today, as we are, there are a lot of content here to tape for this weekend. Nothing else?
No, it was fun TV the last couple of weeks. I've enjoyed it. It's the first time in forever that I've watched both conventions.
Those 76 minutes, I think it was, of Trump's speech were 76 of the most difficult minutes of my life watching television.
Oh, I was going to say, we've had worse than that.
I just couldn't. I mean, there was absolutely zero substance to that speech. And it was troubling me on a level that I want to hear what you're going to do. And
he wouldn't give
none of it.
And he wouldn't give it to you.
None of it. That was what he was saying. I'm not even getting into that. But the fact that there was no substance in the speech, and it was more that fear-mongering to the weak and to the those who are scared of whatever was the challenge. So with that, we've got some shows this week, David.
We do have shows.
Tomorrow it's Feedback Friday, lots of comments, and Saturday it's Prime Time, where we look at it's a big week in wrestling.
About the Monday Night Wars on Friday?
The Monday Night Wars.
They were out of hand again Monday night.
Absolutely, sure. We can talk about your tweet-nanigans on Feedback Friday. And on Saturday, we've got Prime Time. Big week. Battleground was this past week. The debut of the new era of Raw and SmackDown. Big announcement on NXT. All of that happening within the confines of this week, and we'll talk about that Saturday night on Prime Time. That, of course, here available on our YouTube channel and on Fight TV and pwrshow.com. So with that, thank you for joining us and talking a little bit of non-wrestling related stuff for a little while.
If you're in Dearborn, Michigan, vote for Rhino.
I thought it was Rhino with a Y.
It's whatever he wants it to be. He's Rhino.
We'll see you soon, folks.
Thanks for listening to the Double D Podcast. If you like what you just heard, and we know you did, subscribe now and join us on Twitter by following @2DPod. This has been a production of PWR LLC. Join us next time for another edition of the Double D Podcast. Until then, take care of yourselves, because, well, no one else will. Deuces!